This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Man, just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Well, even before the top 5 at 5 begins, Brett Blakemore, you're getting ripped. Wild preseason finale and not even a tease for the top 5. It would appear Blakemore has caught Guardsiitis. Sad. That's from KFAN, who also adds, "You've changed." Do you care to defend yourself, or?
I said in the tease, preseason talkers, which that includes your Minnesota Wild.
Why is
Kevin
KFAN so defensive? Because you're 100% right that your tease well falls under the umbrella of including the Minnesota Wild. He
needs to have something to rip.
I don't understand. Yeah, I mean, he should. You'd think he'd just be happy that his little hero Kirill is signed long term here. You know, I mean,
I am.
You are. Yeah. He's apparently not enough, because that should take up all the oxygen in the room right now, rather than this nonsense.
So I text him back on the text line defending myself, but then I text him with my own phone, and I say, "Come on over. You know, you're more than welcome to preview the game."
His microphones yet?
Well, he said, "I'm at home tonight taking kid to hockey." So he's not even committed to the bit.
So he's not a part of the broadcast?
He's probably doing it from home.
That's ridiculous.
Anyways.
That's not much of a commitment.
Rick, I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but here we go. We'll just go here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
May as well. Your Minnesota Wild are in Chicago for their final preseason game. This is probably the last chance you're going to get to see Yurov and Ogren before they inevitably get dropped down to the third and fourth line to oblivion. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
But I hope not.
That's a cheap shot.
But I would like to see them. I thought they've been playing really well. So I am curious. It'll be on my TV tonight, that's for sure.
Is there such a thing as, how do hockey teams handle preseason compared to, let's say, NBA teams? Do they let veteran players have an entire game off? Are they less likely to do that? What are the rules as they pertain to? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Did you get an interesting text back from Kay Fallness?
I did, yes.
I probably can't read it. It's probably obscene.
No, I can't.
So what are the rules when it comes to hockey that govern hockey when it comes to preseason and veteran players?
As far as just how many they need to play?
Yeah.
Or?
Do they play all the time? Do they play some of the time? Do they get games off? Do they get shifts off? How does it work?
I'm actually surprised that they played as much as they did. Like with Kirill had that eye infection, I was expecting him to kind of get a little breather. I have been looking, and I haven't seen like line combos. I saw some from yesterday, so I'd assume that's for tonight. But it looks like most people are playing. So, but that actually kind of surprises me, because it used to be kind of the youth movement in the preseason, but so far this season it's not so much.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take your word for it. We're doing the green carpet thing again, aren't we, for our home opener? I
sure hope so.
I was told that. I wonder if we're broadcasting from that. What day of the week is that? Do you remember?
For the home opener?
The Wild home opener.
Thursday. Well, the home opener is October 11th. That's a Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So unless you want to do some extra work,
that wouldn't affect us. Yeah, I realize
you could do 7 days a week.
Aren't we? Is that when we're doing the green carpet? The return of the green carpet?
I would imagine so.
If it's the opener,
I don't know for sure.
Right.
You could do Monday, October 13th against the Kings. Could do that as well.
There you go. That's possible. Sure.
The other preseason talker that was teased, the first preseason game for the Wolves is in San Diego. Is it infected by Tibbs? We don't know. They play against the Nuggets.
They play, Denver, and we had fun. I think it was Larry Mondello guy who brought it to my attention. He found a photo, and he gets... Larry Mondello guy gets the bit, at least. We have some texters who just lose their minds. We spent about 7 minutes on it, had fun with it, and people just... It's the degree to which they are triggered and I don't even think they understand callbacks, the way it works. But in any case, he reminded us that Tibbs was hanging out with he's bored. So he's just visiting various training camps and practice sessions. And he'd been out west, like I thought, and I'd forgotten that the Wolves were out there. So during practice, he joined, and he is seen in the photo talking to Julius Randle, who he coached, and Dante DiVincenzo, who he coached as well. And we kiddingly said, well, as Mondello guy brought to our attention, is the good vibe for the Timberwolves now gone? That's called a callback in the business. And we did have some fun with that. It will be interesting to see if Tibbs gets another head coaching job and where he lands, all that kind of good stuff. Meantime, with the Wolves, we know what the storylines allegedly are. We want to defend better again. We were good last year, but great the year before. We want to get back to great. And allegedly, we want to run. We want a fast break more often. These are both very noble intentions. Whether they actually will follow through with them or not, that is a considerable question. Reminder that we are going to be visiting regularly with Mike Conley again for this upcoming season. And in fact, Mike's going to stop by our studio late during Monday's show to get the whole thing kicked off for the 2025-26 season. And there's already been some interesting stuff written on Conley regarding, A, he's much healthier than he was a year ago going into the season. And two, he's basically, I think, trying to deliver the message, I ain't done. I know everybody thinks it's time for me to come off the bench and we need another guard to emerge, but Conley is trying to say, I got more basketball in me yet than you think, and that will be one of the interesting storylines to follow. We'll talk to him about that on Monday.
We probably have time for one more. Do you want a quick NFL kind of recap or Gophers' Date of Destiny?
Let's go NFL recap. We can do Date of Destiny with Lavelle.
49ers beat the Rams last night 26-23. Mac Jones led the way.
Good game.
Controversial play call. For 4th and 1 in overtime, you run the ball, you get stuffed despite Matt Stafford being lights out for like 95% of the game. Which was funny because it's the opposite of the famous Seahawks Marshawn Lynch, where everyone says, how do you not run the ball there?
Great point.
I'm questioning how you don't give the ball to Matt Stafford and let him do something with it.
Well, in all honesty, that's where the head coach of the Rams ripped himself. I don't think he was second-guessing the decision to go for it on the 4th and 1 rather than kick the game-tying field goal. I think he's mad at himself for not doing exactly what you suggested he needed to do, which is don't just try to run the ball up the gut. Put the ball in your quarterback's hands and see if he can make a play.
Lamar Jackson ruled out. Jaden Daniels in this Sunday. Jaden Daniels missed the past 2 games with sprained left knee. Lamar Jackson will miss for the Ravens.
Myriad Vikings injuries. We talked about some of that with Ben Gessling. I'm sure we'll get back to it with Lavelle E. Neal III. A couple other subjects I want to cover, including the local angle being represented as the Major League Baseball playoffs roll on. Back in a minute.
Join the fans of Eric Nordquist Sunday morning at Gray's Food Hall for Kegs and Eggs. You can drop by starting at 8:30 to catch the Purple as they take on Cleveland from London. Plus, enjoy great food and your shot to win awesome prizes. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
This has been a pretty big... I think a pretty big week for our guy Dan Minnesota. I'll give you some details on a piece of Minnesota sports history on this date in just a minute. But he's giddy for, I think, other reasons right now. And that includes, let me see if I can actually get to what I'm looking for here. Oh, that's not it. That's the wrong guy. Let's get to, why can't I find the stats I'm looking for here? Here we go. Well, I'll just look at it this way, I guess. Minnesota's own Michael Busch is advancing or has advanced in the Major League Baseball playoffs as a member of the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs won the rubber game of their 3-game set yesterday with the San Diego Padres of Anaheim. And Michael Busch hit a dong in the Game 3 clincher for the Cubs. In fact, I listened to the end of the radio broadcast, Pat Hughes and our guy Ron Coomer. It is such a good radio broadcast. I tell you, I grew up as a Cubs guy. I'm not anywhere near as much of one as I used to be. And I kidded about a week ago. I don't know if I could even name 7 Cub players that are current. But I wanted to just hear sort of the end of that thing as they wrap things up in the top of the 9th inning at home at Wrigley Field. And we should have Coomer on soon. It's such a good broadcast. He and Hughes work together so seamlessly. And Bush, I believe, was a student of Dan Minnesota. Bush is Inver Grove Heights guy, and I think Dan Minnesota taught him in middle school, if I'm not mistaken. He sent out a photo of him today at school in a Michael Bush jersey. He had this year, let me see if I can find the numbers. He had a terrific year. He hit 34 dongs, 34 home runs, 90 runs batted in. Very effective player for the Chicago Cubs. So good news there for Dan Minnesota and Minnesotans everywhere. We now have to live vicariously through connections to the baseball playoffs, knowing what we know about the local baseball team. So he's been a great story, the way that he has developed, and maybe that's what we'll do. We'll keep an eye on him through the Cubs' efforts, and maybe, like I said, maybe we'll try to get Coomdog on next week. I think the Cubs start tomorrow in Milwaukee against the Brewers. I believe that's the matchup for them next. The other thing that Dan Minnesota mentioned is on this date, what is the date today? October 3. On this date, let me see if I can double check the year. I think I saved it as well. Let me see if I can find it because he sends us so much stuff. Yeah, on this date in 1970, the Twins' victory vest was revealed for the first time. And what's fascinating about this is we've talked about the Vikings victory vest. You and I, in fact, have. We've had fun with it. I mentioned that goes back to, I think, 1994, and I can still vividly remember the Sunday where I'm in the press box and I look down below me, and there are actually some Vikings fans who have cut out the victory vest, the newsprint victory vest from the Sunday Star Tribune, and have attempted to put on a piece of paper as a vest. And I did not remember that, in fact, the Vikings had stolen this idea, apparently, from the Twins that go all the way back to 1970. Now, I don't know how successful the Twins' victory vest was, but that goes all the way back a long, long time. In fact, there are even some calamitous dates related to this day in Minnesota sports history. On this date in 1982, the Twins finished with a regular season record of 60 and 102. 60 and 102. That was the worst record in team history until 2016. And on this date also, Carl Pohlad signed a letter of intent to sell the team to North Carolina. 2017, and this is rare, as we'll have to talk about it, the Twins lost a playoff game to the Yankees. Very rare. Very unusual for the Twins to lose to the Yankees in the postseason, and at the time, it was the Twins' 13th consecutive postseason loss. What did that get up to? Was it 16 before we broke it? Whatever it would have been, it was, of course, too many. And the manager who helped the Twins finally win a playoff game and a playoff series is now fired. He has now been dismissed because it's apparently his fault that they didn't seize upon that success, capitalize on it, and build on it, despite the fact that the immediate Twins decision was to cut $30 million from the payroll. And the rest, of course, is, as we like to say in the business, 100% history. Clayton from Rochester writes, Dan, how good is the Cubs-Brewers series going to be? Sadly, here we get to talk about Minnesota sports injuries and unbeatable obstacles like the Browns. Coomdog? Cato? Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's what we do. We have Coomdog next week, Brewers, Cubs, and it's a great excuse to get Cato on. We haven't had Cato Kalin on, the huge Brewers fan, in a long time. Those are both outstanding ideas, so we'll take that under consideration for next week as well. Let's do this. Let's pause, and we'll prepare for a visit with Lavelle. If you have questions for Lavelle, you know how to find him or find us. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is available to you. Before the show, or before we get to that, though, I also want to mention a 6763 texter says, love the show, but feels like you've been trolling all week. Probably why listeners are triggered. I guess every once in a while I need to make this point. I'm assuming he's talking about yesterday, the position I took regarding the Nafisa Collier statement that I didn't disagree with, but I thought conveniently left a lot of things out, and that I also questioned in a couple of areas. Let me be as succinct as I can on this. I don't need to troll. I really don't. And when you assume that if I take a contrary position to what the majority position is on a subject, that must mean I'm trolling, you don't know me very well, or you don't listen to the show enough. I mean, we all have our trolling moments. Obviously, it's too much fun not to. But the position I took on a number of things, including that story, has nothing to do with trolling. It's just I'm not going to be obligated to go with, the majority opinion simply because nationally everybody is lauding that particular period. In part because I can't separate that episode from the way the Lynx fell apart on the court as easily as many people have. So please understand, if you assume that if I take a position different than your own, the only reason I must be doing that is I'm just trying to get people going, I don't need to do that at this point. I really don't. As fun as it can be from time to time, it's not necessary. But it might just be I have a different position because I have a different position. And I'm not quite necessarily going to automatically go with the flow in that regard. It's not, it's not a conspiracy. It's just perhaps a difference of opinion, and I'll accept the difference, and I'll even accept other opinions on it. But the surest indication I have that you're mad or you're frustrated is if you assume I take a different position, it must just be because I'm trying to get people going. Fun to do, but not always worth the time either. Lavelle, a great contrarian, is next.
This football season, Bell Bank is giving one KFAN listener each week $1,000 to pay it forward to a charity of their choice. Just head over to KFAN.com, keyword contest, to learn more and to enter today. KFAN.com, keyword contest.
It is indeed time to chat with Lavelle Neal III. A lot of questions already coming in. Lavelle joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline on this very warm, moist Friday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Was it hotter? And we know it's drier in Vegas. Was it hotter in Vegas for your big weekend or your big week than it is back here in the Twin Cities?
First of all, my apologies. I agreed to come out to. Yes, here we go. I had to make an appearance at 6:00, and I agreed to make it. I'm out in Shakopee, and I forgot I had to do the 5:30 bit. So I'm going to a place I don't know where I'm going to, and so I've got MapQuest on, and I'm speaking on the speakerphone. So I apologize.
Oh, the sound is crystal clear. It's just impeccable. It's not surprising you'd forget. You've only been doing the Friday bit on this show for like the last 25 years.
I know, but I said yes before I thought it through. I said, oh, crap, that's right. I got to do 5:30.
I see.
So the funny part is I'm at a place called Launchpad. It's kind of a Top Golf knockoff.
Launchpad.
Mystic Lake is making an appearance out here. So I don't know if he set me up to be like his straight man for whatever routine he's got planned, but we're about to find out. So anyway, answer your question. The first day we got to Vegas was 95 degrees. It was smoking hot. The rest of the days was like high 80s. So it's about the same, actually, as what was going on in Vegas. So this reminds me of a week ago. A week ago, I was in the middle of all kinds of activity in Vegas, enjoying my birthday, and here I am.
Who's going to get the first Rocco interview? Which Inkstain Wretch or Media Jackal will get the Rocco exit interview?
Well, I hope it's me. Definitely. I don't know. I've communicated with Rocco through text since he's been relieved of his duties. So hopefully I'm in the queue in a favorable position. So we'll see, man. I think he wants to leave alone for a while.
Yes.
Based on what he said to me, he indicated that he wants to spend some time with his family. So I don't think he's going to try to get back to managing it anytime soon. But he did say, he enjoyed, our back and forth through the years. He enjoyed answering all the questions, good, bad, and weird. And he said he'll always be a Twins fan. So that was pretty much the extent of our communication.
Yeah, I've also had a couple of texts with him as well. And he strikes me as a guy who's not going to ever go scorched earth. But he certainly deserves his minute, if he wants it. And that's ultimately up to him. Rocco may be the type that doesn't want it, that he doesn't need it and he'll just move on to whatever's next or lay low, like you say, for a period of time. I don't think he's likely to come out firing. Do you?
Here's my prediction with that. Some network will have him on as an analyst.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yep. Yep.
In some capacity.
Yep.
Maybe in time for the World Series. I don't know. But definitely before, maybe sometime next year, I could see him reappearing in that mode. Pete's well liked. He's got friends all over the league. So I think if he wanted to get back into managing, he could try. But he's not been rumored for any of these jobs. There's about 30 people mentioned as candidates for the 8 jobs that's out there, and it may be up to 10, based on what Colorado does and another team does. So I know it's I'm gonna miss the guy. I enjoyed dealing with him.
Mm-hmm.
His reasoning was sound for the most part, and if he didn't like a question, he just found a way to answer it without acting like he was pissed off.
Well, that's the understatement. There's no question about that. Do you ever remember, what's the closest that you remember him getting to a meltdown? You know, we have managerial meltdowns happen all the time because it's a 162-game season. Did he ever come close in his 7-year tenure?
During the times I was on the beat, not really. I mean, there was times off the, once the interview was done, and we were just kind of BSing afterwards,
right.
We would get fired up over stuff, He is the East Coast guy. He's a Rhode Island guy, so he does have that temper in him. But I don't know if there's anything over the last couple of years come up with those beat writers that, he got on the verge of exploding. But, he never had a meltdown. That's a good point. He never had a meltdown. But, Paul Mahler really never had a meltdown either, Gardy, meltdown. TK, meltdown. But the last two Twins managers, no.
May I read to you the last 9 texts that have come in since you started chatting with us today?
Oh, no. Here we go.
I'm just going to read them in the order in which they, the inverse order of when they were received. Is Lavelle in a tunnel? Is Lavelle calling in from underwater somewhere? Scroll down. We can barely understand Lavelle. Come on, man. It's always an adventure with Lavelle. Lavelle sounds like Grandpa calling into C-SPAN. Sheesh, wonderful phone reception again. Is he calling from a potato? He couldn't have left earlier to get there and park? I mean, you're just getting destroyed.
I made a concerted effort to leave early once I just discovered my scheduling conflict. Mm-hmm. But driving from Immigrant Heights across 494 and the 169, traffic can be unpredictable. So it got a little dicey. I have arrived at my destination here, but I'm afraid to try to switch over because I may fall off the line if I do so.
But, and I warned everybody when I came on. I said, hey, I'm driving my car right now. I got the hands-free device hooked up. Bluetooth is on. I'm here to fulfill my appearance on the fan.
All right, here's what we're going to do. Let's do a 42 break, and that will allow you to get off the line hands-free, go back to, at the very worst, just a regular phone connection, which for you could still be an adventure, but it might give us a better chance. So we'll do that. We'll break a little bit early for Lavelle and get to part 2 with him, and we'll be able to sort of spread our wings a little bit on this Friday evening. If you have actual questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. It can be about the Twins. It can be about your Minnesota Vikings. It could be about the Kaprizov signing. It could be about the Minnesota Lynx or the WNBA title round, which begins this evening. Whatever is on your mind, Lavelle is back for more in a minute.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Well, Brett Blakemore reminds me we were actually out at 6:15 today because we got Vikings programming to get in ahead of Minnesota Wild preseason hockey. So because we did an early break to sort of unburden Lavelle from his horrific car speakerphone situation, we're going the distance. So we'll get a lot more good stuff with Lavelle, maybe mix in a couple of other items before we are out at about a quarter after 6 o'clock. I want to thank, as always, Ben Gessling. Not sure I want to thank Carl Gerbschmidt, but he was part of the prediction segment between 3:30 and 4 as well. No sermons this week for the second consecutive week for the obvious reason that your Vikings are in action. Pregame show starting at 6:30. Although, Lavelle, I did say that if the Gophers shock the world and beat Ohio State at the Shoe tomorrow night, I would be in, or attempt to be in, if I can get cooperation from Blakemore or somebody else to come in that early, for a 5 a.m. edition of Sunday Sermons. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea, and I think you would have some listenership because people will be waking up to get ready to go watch the Vikings play.
That's true.
So,
absolutely.
There definitely would be an audience for that, although I don't think you're going to have to do it. What's the spread, 24?
Yeah,
what was it?
It's considerable. It's 23 or 24, you're right.
Yep. So and the Gophers have just proven they're just not quite there this year. And with Darius Taylor out, some other injuries, and the kid in his first year starting at quarterback, and he's got an arm. He's got talent, no doubt.
He looked very good last week.
Yep, he did. So, but I think Ohio State's got too much. Going into the Horseshoe, coming out with a victory. I was listening. We had Mason on. That was a long time ago when they last won there. I was trying. I get it mixed up. Was that the game when Dan Nystrom had a big kick, or was that the Penn State game?
No, the Ohio State game, they didn't even need a kick. They dominated. It was like 29-17, 29-16. I was there for that game, and they were the dominant team. They needed no late-game heroics.
Now, I was trying to go cover this game. I put in a request to cover it, but it was denied, so unfortunately. We'll just have Randy Johnson, our able-bodied beat writer, on the scene there to chronicle everything that's going to happen. Although, and the other thing that stinks, too, it's a night game, so it's terrible for our newfangled deadlines. So I don't know how much is going to be in the paper the next day, so make sure you go to StarTribune.com for all your Gopher coverage.
I did mention, and we all did, that the QB looked very good, but that was against Rutgers defense. Let me give you the point totals allowed thus far by the Ohio State defense. 7, 0, 9, and 6. That's pretty good. So they've done it against bad teams, but they've done it against legitimate teams, including Texas, who at the time was ranked number 1. Probably overrated, but they gave up 7 in that game. They gave up 9 to Ohio. They gave up 6 at Washington. So there are people who think this might be an historically great Big Ten defense. They are very good. It's a huge challenge for the Gophers, as you say.
Yeah, that Texas game, I believe, was one of the first game. It was the first game of the season. That kind of set Arch Manning down the spiral, didn't it?
Yes, it certainly did. Let me get to a couple other texts for you before we cover some other stuff. Hold on a second. Let me scroll down a little bit because there's a bunch. Oh, I said via X that you would name the next Twins manager. If you had to make a prediction on who the next Twins manager would be, give me a name.
Well, here's the thing. If you rank the attractiveness of the 8 jobs that's out there, the Twins are probably 5th or 6th, maybe 7th, depends on your situation. So that's going to knock out, proven managers. There's been talk about Bruce Bochy having one last ride with the Giants. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Bob Melvin's out there. He's been a credible manager. Guys of that ilk, are going to. I don't think you should count on. Skip Schumacher looks like he's headed to Texas to take over the Rangers. Well, he's already working there in the front office, but he's highly thought of. Brandon Hyde is a possibility because he did interview. A lot of times you go back to people on your interview list from the previous search, and the Twins did bring in Brandon Hyde for an interview. So that's one guy to keep out with. I'm looking at either a return of Derek Shelton or giving James Ralston, the current Yankees hitting coach, his first managerial look. I don't know how much the Twins are willing to spend for a manager. They still have to pay Rocco off for the option they picked up for 2026. And the managers have to come in with hard questions about what direction is this program headed. Are we going to fund a decent roster? You can point toward the farm system as a plus, but what are they going to do to bring in quality talent to make the major league roster better? And my colleague Bobby Nightingale Jr. Pointed out that you never see a team have a fire sale at midseason and turn around and start spending during the off season. So that's going to turn some managers off. So that's why I think it's going to be, Shelton, who's been here before. He was well liked and did a good job before he got hired by the Pirates, which is a worse organization than the Twins. The Twins were one of the few teams that didn't lay off anybody during COVID. The Pirates froze pension plan funding, and they have not been very active at all in the free agent market. So he'll actually be coming to a better situation than he was in Pittsburgh. I just think Ralston's been. I know he's been wanting to be a manager for many years. He's been with different organizations. He's coached everyone from Alex Rodriguez to Aaron Judge. He worked under Don Mattingly in Miami as a bench coach / offensive coordinator. They created a position for him. I just think he's built himself up for a shot. And the Twins, loved him from his time he was here. So I'm looking at those two guys as the top possibilities for being the next manager of the Twins.
763 guy asks for you or wants to get an answer from you. The poll ads seem to have made a calculated bet that the payroll reductions going into 2026 will be larger than the ticket sales reductions, thus making the team more profitable. I think they will be pleasantly or rather unpleasantly surprised. What type of box office punishment does Lavelle expect next year regarding reduced ticket sales?
I think that the ticket sales will be less than they were this year. They drew at one point. They sold 1.7 million tickets, which was a low for the history of Target Field. I based on what I just laid out before, I don't think they're going to make any splashy personnel moves during the offseason. There's still more of a concern that they may trade Pablo Lopez or Joe Ryan, and that's going to deflate the fan base even more. So I can see it. I can see it going down. So. And there's a belief out there. I'm not saying I actually embrace this, but there's a belief out there that if they're looking ahead to 2027 when there possibly could be a labor impasse, and a lot of teams are looking at that too. And there's people who believe that there's going to be a reduction in big-time free agency signings because of potential labor strike coming up. And if they could wait out the next couple of years, get a new CBA that has a salary cap, and have the television revenue issue figured out, which the league is trying to work on, that franchise values will go up. The Twins will be worth way more than they are now, and maybe they'll be more willing to sell in. Wouldn't that, in the short term, that stinks for the fans. That means you got 2 to 3 years of this to put up with. So, I expect more of a hit. I can't see how group sales are going to improve during the offseason. That's usually a big fueler of revenue, having groups that want to come in from, all parts of Twins territory to watch games. They're not going to be motivated to come watch a team that has like $120 million payroll, I don't think. So it doesn't look good unless they suddenly have a change of heart, that these new investors come in and pay down their debt, and they've got some flexibility. But I don't see that happening.
Larry Mondello guy is ripping you. That's not new, but let me read it, what he had to say earlier. Let me get this straight. The only comment Lavelle has been able to get from Rocco is that he really appreciates him and enjoyed their time working together. Larry Mondello guy wants more. Is he being unfair or unrealistic?
No, it's fair. I mean, some other stuff in the text swap. We swapped 2 or 3 texts. Okay. I'm not going to divulge everything that was given out at the time. But yeah, he did say some more things.
Hold on a second. So you're suggesting that maybe the rest of the conversation was meant off the record? That certainly didn't stop your gal, Nafisa Collier, from her revealing her conversations with the much maligned, beleaguered commissioner of the WNBA.
She had a script. She had a prepared script when she walked up to the table to sit down.
Certainly did.
That was as deliberate, and she the timing was right for her to sit there. She had all the media gathered, and she knew that she was going to get the coverage and the attention that she wanted out of those comments. A private conversation with, swapping text with a guy is totally different than that.
Oh, no. Well, why is it different? That allegedly was a private conversation. I mean, that's
private conversation.
I'm talking about
Caitlin Clark.
Yes, that's what I'm talking.
That was her prerogative to disclose that to help fuel her narrative. So
I see. Okay,
I'm not here to fuel any narratives about how Rocco feels about the Twins.
All right, that's fair. I, in all seriousness, think because the commissioner is under siege and she's earned a lot of that, it's become very easy to just gloss over the fact that was one would assume with no microphones around. Conversations about negotiations. And what I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that if we didn't like the individual as much as we like Nafisa, and if we didn't despise the individual that we do, the commissioner, would we be more bothered a little bit by that? In other words, if you as a reporter divulged an off-the-record conversation with Rocco or with Nafisa Collier or with anybody else, believe me, you would get blowback and pushback from the Lynx. You would get pushback from, I'm guessing, Rocco, whatever the case may be. And I'm a little bothered that we've just sort of glossed over that part of the story that, no big deal. We would, believe me, there are plenty of athletes who, if it happened to them, would feel that a trust was violated under that circumstance. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
No, that's a fair point, Dan. I choose not to burn my bridges, okay? And Fee does not care at this point, and she decided to break that trust. Wherever, maybe she didn't have any trust with the commissioner that motivated her to do that, to reveal that conversation. So yeah, that was her decision. I would not have done the same thing, and it's really interesting considering one. She has rank
VP
in the Players Association.
Yep.
She's part of negotiations, and she founded the Unrivaled League as well. That's another tentacle to this whole thing. Well.
It's true.
So, that was an interesting tack. If I was her, and maybe I just don't have the gumption that she has, I would not have divulged that information.
Well, to be honest, part of it is, let's face it. And part of the reason the players have rallied to her is they're in negotiation mode. That's what they're in, and so they're going to try. And I don't begrudge this. They're going to try to do everything they can to improve their position, put the pressure on the other side. I just think people have to be cognizant of that and keep their eyes open to that. That. Again, this commissioner is not anyone I've necessarily defended, although, frankly, what I've been told is from a business standpoint, she's done very well in terms of the new TV deal, in terms of expansion. Yep. The problem is she is tone deaf on other aspects of her job, and it may well be she was better made as a VP in charge of business as opposed to being the commissioner of the league.
Yeah, perhaps. Definitely perhaps. And I don't know what the ins and outs of negotiations. I don't know what proposals have been traded back and forth. I also know this, just from reading about this over the last few months, the NBA has underwritten this league for a number of years.
No doubt.
And there are owners that want a return on their investment.
Yeah.
Now, should they understand that there's some sunk costs when starting a league like that, like they did? Mm-hmm. Or do they have to be a little bit more reasonable on what they want to get back? And that's that may be another tentacle to this whole thing as well.
Well, the interesting issue for me is how it goes forward, because there are a lot of predictions of that the players are willing to walk. And I will say, for the reasons you just laid out, I think that would be I think the only thing that would be a bigger disaster than a lockout would be a walkout. I think either side, if they are interested in cementing this league's future, they won't stop. If they, a work stoppage in this league at this point, I think it's very dangerous. And I don't know what the answer is, because it's very clear the two sides are very far apart about fairness, but there's a lot of tentacles to this, Lavelle. The valuations have gone through the roof, but that doesn't mean that the league is making money yet. That's the irony of this situation. And that's what makes it really tricky regarding how far you go when it comes to we ain't going to play unless we get exactly what we want.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, the way the rhetoric against the league has been going, if they lock out the players, that would just be viewed as flat out draconian and make them look even worse. So both sides have something to lose if they decide to make this draw the line here.
100% true. Couple of other texts. Let me get to a couple other texts here quickly. Well, let's talk a little Vikings while we're at it. As you know, they're back in London for their second consecutive game in Europe. In this case, it's against Cleveland. Cleveland has made a quarterback change. The Vikings offensive line, we know, is in tatters. They're going to be starting 3 backups, including a center who's never played the position at any level, which is a little on the dangerous side. We got changes at right tackle and guard as well. On the other hand, I argued early in the show that at some point, you just got to go win a game, don't you? If you're as good as you think you are, even with the injuries, the Vikings are favored for a reason, one would assume, by 3.5 points. The odds makers pay attention to injuries, and yet somehow they still have the Vikings favored by 3.5 points. I'm not sure I'd take the half. I think the half might be dangerous. But what's your view on the current condition of the club, and does this fall into the classification of a must game for the Purple, even though it's the first week in October?
Well, on Michael Rand's podcast, The Daily Delivery, we discussed this very subject, and we both arrived at the same conclusion that this is definitely a must-win. That there's a 2-3 versus a 3-2 record at stake here, and you go into the bye, and you've got your schedule gets tougher after this. I will say this, though, in NFL, it's not exactly who you play, but when you play them, when you catch those teams that matter. But you still have to take care of business, and they have to be prepared to win a 6-3 game, a 13-10 game, however ugly it's going to be. They got to figure out a way here. They got a rookie quarterback. He's not even a first-round draft pick. He's a third-round draft pick that they have to get after, that Brian Flores has to be salivating over how he can attack this guy, get him confused, and make him make mistakes. On the other hand, you got the Vikings offensive line, which is in absolute tatters. And they're down a running back as well. So it's going to be Jordan Mason and Xavier Scott and whatever Carson Wentz can do. Hopefully he gets the ball off his hand quick before the pressure gets on him. I'm putting T.J. Hawkinson on a big game. I think he's going to be vital in this situation here. And I think the Vikings will win. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be mucky. But they're going to have to muck it up in order to get to 3-2.
100% true, but given the schedule we have coming up after the bye, they're very close to a must-win situation. Now, we've seen things change. I
did not hear your entire conversation with Ben Gessling. Did he talk about the lack of access today?
Yeah, well, I did. I brought it up, and he's not there. You know, he came back, as you probably know, so he was just there for the Dublin game. But I did talk about what I felt might be the Zimmerization of KOC continuing this week. Early in the week with some comments that indicated a great deal of – he was much more frontal about penalties and the players responsible for those penalties than I've ever heard him before, which told me he knows they're in a dangerous predicament if they don't start winning games. And then we come to find out he was apparently very unhappy with your colleague, a column Jim Suhan wrote today talking about the fan conspiracy theory, which he kind of knocked down. I don't think he necessarily tried to give it oxygen. That J.J. McCarthy is not hurt at all. And so what I heard was he was unhappy with that. He's unhappy about some other things there that were written by other people, and that he closed the locker room to the media jackals. The Zimmerization of KOC. That's the story of this week going into the game, I think.
So there are other stories that he wasn't happy about as well. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Interesting. I'm surprised he's taken that tact. If he's doing the right thing, he really should not act like this. If JJ's really injured and they're being careful with him,
sure,
he should not be acting in this way. With the fact that he's responding this way actually gives that oxygen, to borrow your word, that the possibility of a conspiracy is real.
Yeah, no, that's and again, I think he's hurt. I also think it's fair to assume that given the state of the offensive line, they might be relieved that J.J. McCarthy is hurt, and they would probably prefer, given his challenges early and how overwhelmed he looked, to bring him back at a point where they're getting some greater health in the offensive line, even if it's against the Eagles in that game after the bye. That's not a soft landing either, but you'd rather have it if you have more offensive line options. So I think that's very possible. I think they probably don't mind that. If you want to look at it this way, they're sacrificing Carson Wentz in the interim against two good defenses, Pittsburgh, and probably a better defense in Cleveland with a terrific front. And that's one of the big concerns coming into the game this week. What time? Go ahead.
If it's a high ankle sprain, that's at least 4 weeks, possibly longer. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play until the Chargers game, to be honest with you. He does not even play against Philadelphia. And you see how Wentz does, and you make that decision then.
Yeah, well, Wentz can make it hard or easy, depending on how you look at it. If he plays well, let's say he plays better than he did a week ago, the line holds up well enough, or they figure out some other stuff to move, then I think it becomes easy to maybe extend him for the reason that you lay out. And I'm a big believer in you keep playing the guy who's winning until he fades. And then you'll have my guess is you'll still have plenty of time to get McCarthy back in the lineup. So we'll see how it goes. Enjoy your big event. And we will, what do you got? What's the Sunday column?
I try to have a little lighthearted column, because they renamed part of 7th Street, 97th Street by the arena.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Grand Casino Arena. I wrote a lighthearted columns arguing that they should just keep it as 97th Street. Because here's the thing. There's a street behind CHS Field that's been renamed positively for it. Mike Beck pushed for it in honor of Bob Dylan. So they already have a precedent in renaming streets for people. So why not? He's going to be the best player in Wild history. Let's have some fun with it. And it's just for like a 2-block stretch.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I have no problem with that. So that'll be Sunday. We'll read and we'll react as always. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Lavelle E. Neal III. I think the connection actually did get better once we left his speakerphone. A couple people have said, and this is a fair counter to the comments I made regarding Collier going public with what are supposed to be private negotiations with management when it comes to the new collective bargaining agreement. Nafisa, unlike Lavelle, isn't a journalist. She owes the commissioner no off-the-record respect. I'm fine, I would say, to 320 guy, if he would be, if that individual is consistent with it and would say the exact same thing if the commissioner revealed aspects that might not be all that flattering to members of the players committee during those that negotiating or during that process, then I'm with you. If you're consistent with it, I get it. But presumably there's a reason that conversations that took place months and months ago didn't go public, because what I need to know is context. What I need to know is, well, what else? What might have been in negotiations? They are generally not held in public for a reason, right? Because people, it's tense, it's difficult, it's challenging. It might even be a little bit of a game that the two sides' rhetoric that is used to make a point that might not literally be meant. So if you're consistent with that, I'll get that. My point was never that Nafisa is a journalist. The question is she did not go public with this. And again, as much fun as it is to pound away on the commissioner who has asked for it on many occasions, it's a little too easy for me in that environment. I want to know what might have been said on the other side that could have been viewed as, at the moment, a little bit over the top or a little bit outlandish, whatever the case may be. It's a rather one-sided conversation. She can do it. Absolutely, it's her right to do it. But the irony here the last couple of days is I'm being told apparently that I don't have a right to react to it, or I am obligated to swallow all of it without throwing some nuggets into the air that might be under consideration, including, as I said, this notion that we're supposed to be moved by the fact that Nafisa believes that the leadership posed by her husband in the 3-on-3 league is on the polar opposite. Okay, well, maybe so, but that's rather convenient. And generally, if we hear that from significant others, we go, well, I'm not sure necessarily that would be the last word on that as well. Thanks for everybody listening today. As I mentioned, the Vikings podcast is going to follow us. And then it's Minnesota Wild Hockey. Is this our last preseason game?
This is it.
This is it.
This is dress rehearsal.
Oh, my God. This is big. Kaprizov, is he playing?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100%.
How's his eye? Is it better?
I hope so.
God, we hope so. That's for sure. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Vikings. Sunday morning, 6:30 is when the pregame show begins. And will there be a Sunday sermons? Only if the Gophers knock off the Ohio State Buckeyes tomorrow night. Also on the Fan. So be ready.